Welcome into our Top 5 Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studio here in Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. I think we've got a pretty good show today.
Feeling good vibes.
Yeah.
Feeling a big show today.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
In the second hour, it's Tuesday. It's Top 5 Tuesday, as I just mentioned. We will be talking to the Blue Raider voice. Wade kind of representing over there with the MTSU hoodie. I had mine on yesterday. You missed it. But
we're just keeping a good thing going then.
Well, you know, it was a good weekend for MTSU on a number of different fronts. So it's good to kind of be representing this week in particular. But we're going to be speaking with the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, as we typically do on Tuesday. So he'll be joining us at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. Later in this hour, in the next segment, as a matter of fact, Wade was kind enough to get us in touch with the Grizz on Valley voice. Speaking of voices, Pete PRANICA is going to join us here at 2:25, talk a little Memphis Grizzlies and NBA. And we've got some other NBA fodder as well over the course of this show. So looking forward to that. Wade, were you at basketball last night?
Yeah, I was. Giles County girls, their season came to an end, but hats off to Lawrence County as the Lady Wildcats got a 63-33 win, and they move on to the semifinals, which will be played Friday at Marshall County High School. So Lawrence County girls and Lawrence County boys both be represented.
So they move on to the semifinals and obviously clinch a spot in the upcoming region tournament as well. So big win for Lawrence County, obviously tough loss for Giles County's girls. And that tournament continues tonight, right, with boys?
Yes, sir. As soon as we wrap up here, hitting the road, heading to Murfreesboro, it'll be number 3 seed Central Magnet hosting Giles County tonight. This is a rematch of a game played last week, and it was a rematch, or the trilogy will end tonight for one of these teams, as both teams won a game in the regular season. So I'm excited. It should be a fun one.
The rubber match, as it were. Was this type of struggle expected for Giles County this year? Is this from their move from 2A to 3A? What is?
You know, I think it was unexpected in the sense, in the preseason, there was a lot of curiosity about how the team would try and fill some of the holes after they had that great run last year to the semifinals in 2A. And they just promptly went out and won 15, I think, games in the first half of the season. And then it was snake bit city since they've gotten into district play, as they've gotten blown out twice by Lawrence County, who's the number 1 seed. So not necessarily shocking in that regard. But every other game, save for last Friday, they had 3 really bad games, I would say, in district play. Every other game, win or lose, was decided by 10 points or less. Most of those decided by 5 points or less. And you just got to think that maybe they're going to turn it around a little bit. The good news, if you turn it around tonight, yes, you get to go to the semifinals, and as you mentioned, most importantly, get to go to region. The bad news is, if you don't get it turned around tonight, a really talented Giles County team, their season will be done in the the district quarterfinals.
Tough night, can be a tough night. We'll see how that one goes, obviously, and we will be discussing some other such games here in the rundown in just a bit. But yeah, again, Pete PRANICA here in the next segment. Chip Walters at the top of the 3 o'clock hour talking MTSU. Also, going to talk a little college hoops. Want to mention also, Thursday, we will have CBSSports.com's bracketologist Jerry Palm with us, and we will have him every Thursday from now until Selection Sunday, talking little NCAA tournament projections and that type thing. Excited about that. And again, it's Top 5 Tuesday, so we will be giving you our Top 5 Super Bowl individual performances. Can't imagine how we came up with that topic. Yeah. So we will be getting into all of that here in just a bit. Right now, though, we need to give you yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
High school basketball action from Monday night. Christ Presbyterian Academy defeated Pope Prep 51-46. Greenbrier downed White House Heritage 73-47. As Wade just mentioned, Lawrence County with a 63-33 win over Giles County. Lipscomb Academy defeated Brentwood Academy 42-36. McEwen with a 49-44 win over Houston County. Nolensville defeated Independence 61-47. Page with a 59-44 win over Franklin. Portland defeated Macon County 37-35. Ravenwood with a 52-32 win over Centennial. It was Shelbyville 58, Spring Hill 27. Brentwood with a 74-53 win over Summit, and Trousdale County defeated Liberty Creek 47-38.
In boys basketball last night, CPA took care of Father Ryan 78-52. Greenbrier was a 64-49 winner versus White House Heritage. Independence wins by 12, 72-60 is your final versus Nolensville. It was Page knocking off Franklin 48-38. Good win for the Patriots there. 47-28 was the final score as Portland defeats Macon County. Ravenwood a winner 51-27 versus Centennial. Brentwood wins by 4. Close game over Summit in that one last night. Trousdale County was a 42-34 winner versus Liberty Creek. Station Camp took care of White House last night 66-61. In women's college basketball last night, Tennessee, the Lady Vols with a nice win 81-55 versus Arkansas. And we mentioned Pete's going to join us in the next segment. Grizzlies fell last night to the Pelicans. Hard fought game, but they fall in that one. 96-87 was your final in NBA action last night.
By the way, Brentwood 51-47 over Summit in that one. You missed the score. You mentioned the game. You mentioned the outcome. You just didn't give the score.
That was too much of a tease, I suppose, for folks. Yeah, shout out to Brentwood as a nice win for them. Yeah, 51-47. They knock off Summit last night.
There we go. High school basketball doubleheaders tonight. 6 o'clock starts for the girls with the guys to follow. Trousdale County is at East Robertson. Merrill Hyde is at Liberty Creek. Girls only games. At 6 o'clock, Hickman County plays Cheatham County. Kirkwood is at Clarksville Northeast at 7. 6 o'clock start for Middle Tennessee Christian at Ezel Harding. Also Donaldson Christian at Franklin Road Academy. Grace Christian of Franklin goes to Good Pasture at 6. At 7:30, East Hickman plays Harpeth. 6 o'clock start for McGavick and Hunters Lane girls. Also Martin Luther King at Lawson at 6. At 7:30, Lewis County plays Loretto. That will follow the 6 o'clock game between Mount Pleasant and Summertown at Loretto in the District 10 2A tournament. 6 o'clock starts for Nashville Christian at Providence Christian. Hampshire and Santa Fe at Cornersville, and Kenwood at West Creek will play at 7.
Some boys basketball action tonight. Hunters Lane will travel to Antioch. That game is slated for 7:30. Hampshire will take on Cornersville in a play-in game in their district tournament. 7:30 also your start time there. Big Sandy will travel to Houston County. That is set for 6 o'clock. Mo and I have talked about I'll be at Murfreesboro Central Magnet tonight as Giles County will travel to the borough for a 7 p.m. start. You can also catch that game on Pulaski Citizen Live. Quick plug. Spring Hill will travel to Warren County. That game is set for 6:30. Monterey travels to Watertown. That game is set to begin at 7:30 as well. And as we kind of wrap up the rundown here, college basketball doubleheader, Tennessee State will travel to Tennessee Tech. That game in Cookeville at 5:30 p.m. And in Division I, major Division I college basketball at least, Texas A&M travels to Vanderbilt. I don't know if any Memorial Magic is left in the cards this year for the Commodores, but the Doors will come out there. They will host Texas A&M tonight. That game is set for 6 o'clock. It'll be broadcast on ESPNU. And the Preds are at home tonight. Big game at 7 on Bally Sports South, and that will be versus the Devils as the Preds are back at home. Maybe sneak out some wins here in the second half of the season.
There we go. And that is your rundown. Top story. Brought to you as always by Piggly Wiggly over in Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and stop through for their delicious daily deli lunch options as well as their hand-cut meats. And everything is cost plus 10 at the register at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Top story. There was a preliminary injunction hearing heard in Greenville Tennessee, of all places, as the attorneys generals of Tennessee and Virginia taking on the NCAA, trying to keep the college athletics governing organization from enforcing its name, image, and likeness rules as it relates to compensation for athletes as part of an antitrust lawsuit. The plan was for the hearing, or a 4-hour window had been reserved for the hearing. It took less than an hour and a half. I don't know what that means, but it went quickly. So, federal judge Clifton Corker said that he will rule in short order on said preliminary injunction that the AGs of Tennessee and Virginia requested, but there was no immediate ruling by Judge Corker. So we will wait and see what comes up next.
Yeah, like you said, could be something, could be nothing. The fact that it lasted less than 90 minutes, and a couple things jumping out to me in the story we've got here from the AP. I love the fact that they noted near the top of the story that an orange Power T flag representing Tennessee was hanging from a construction lift, kind of right around the courthouse there. So just happened to be there.
Just kind of reminding the NCAA whose turf they're on.
Stepping into our neck of the woods, and it should come as no surprise. Obviously, this is public record, but yeah, we know that it's Judge Clifton Corker. How many Google searches in Knoxville from the moment that he was assigned to this case do you think went up on the history, maybe where he went to high school, what sort of trouble he got in as a youth? The Vols fans are known for their sleuthing on the internet, and I feel like Judge Corker,
where he went to school, that kind of thing. So
they will dig up the dirt on Judge Corker, but it does feel like this is kind of setting the table for what's still to come. And I mean, that's big news out of Greenville now that football season is ended for the Green Devils up there. That's probably some of the bigger news they've had in the community in a while.
It probably is some of the bigger news they've had in a while. That's it's interesting to have something like that land in your backyard. So I'm sure there's a lot of interest, particularly in East Tennessee, in that. So and we'll be keeping up with it as well. Also, Wade, we spoke on this show a few weeks ago about the relationship between Eldrick Woods, most of y'all know him as Tiger, and Nike coming to an end. Today it was announced that Tiger has a new clothing line, Sunday Red, which is fitting.
Yep.
It's 3 words, Sunday Red, will be his new clothing brand through TaylorMade. So it's big news, new logo, interesting looking logo when you Google it. That's okay, so it's a tiger, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
As presented, it is a tiger.
Does look like a tiger. It is not necessarily, the internet obviously does what the internet does. Some were, taking quick dunks on tiger there. But
we're not going to dunk. We're just going to, we report, you decide. Go look it up and see what you come up with. But
he's, and he's playing in the Genesis this weekend, so he'll have a chance to
model.
I mean, obviously, very unlikely to happen. But could you imagine the sales potentially on that stuff if he does leap up into contention going into Sunday somehow?
And play on Sunday? Yeah.
Man. It is a little sad, obviously, because you just always have that association with Tiger and Nike. And I'm a Nike guy. I love Tiger,
sure.
And it just felt a little, just kind of like a little bit of my childhood and youth was kind of just robbed of me when they depart. But time goes on, right?
And I guess the TW is gone. That's unfortunate. The Tiger logo has 15 stripes.
Okay.
One for each of his 15 major championships.
Hello.
Little reminder. I've done a little something.
Kind of catchy logo. The picture I'm looking at, he looks pretty sharp. I don't know that I'm going to go rush out to buy any just yet, but looks pretty sweet. And I'm not going to make the joke that the internet was making, but if I were to make that joke, they would point out that if you turn the logo sideways, it looks like a spine that's kind of out of order, the vertebrae perhaps. And so I'm not going to make that point or that joke, but if I were, I was just reporting what was kind of going around on the web last night.
We didn't say it, we just repeated it. Yeah. The word mark appears as 3 words for a simple reason. There's a special power in 3s. Calling it Sunday Red was a fun way for us to create something completely different and unexpected. Born from a love for being outside in the sun, the joy of playing golf during the day, and a special red being the brand's power color. As soon as Sunday Red was placed on a garment for the first time, it just looked perfect. That was Tiger's comment on the Sunday Red website.
Which is going to be produced by TaylorMade, which, you know, as we're reading here on CBS, I mean, talk about a boon for them. You could throw Tiger in the mix, and he's still got that power, right? He's still got that draw. If he does make the cut, if he certainly is in contention on Sunday, I mean, again, sales, but also television ratings, he still just moves the needle like nobody else.
And, you know, like it or not, that's a fact. He moves the needle. And if he's playing, you're going to watch. You know, whether you're watching to see how well he does, whether you're watching to root for him to do poorly, you're going to watch. And so, like you said, this is huge for TaylorMade. They're the real winners in this whole thing.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It is going to, like I said, it is, and CBS points this out too. It's going to look a little different, no doubt.
Look a lot different.
But I think we could get used to it. And I hope we get to see him wearing it more in the sense that we're going to get to see him playing more. Obviously, physical limitations kind of getting the better of him as he's getting older and older. But, man, it's still fun to watch the guy move around, and hopefully we get a good tournament, good showing this weekend.
Yeah, I think he's kind of picking his spots, obviously, just for his, in light of his physical limitations. But clearly we're going to see him on the links, and looking forward to that, obviously. So, Wade, let's go ahead and go to a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. And when we come back, we should be joined in short order by Pete Pranica, the Bally Sports voice of the Memphis Grizzlies, talking a little hoops. When we come back right here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stay with us.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back to the Top 5 Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Time to talk a little Grizzlies. And as we mentioned in the rundown, coming off a tough road loss last night, they are. But going to get a little insight into that from the Bally voice of the Memphis Grizzlies, Pete PRANICA, joining us now. Pete, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. How are you doing?
Doing well, thanks. Appreciate you taking some time with us, man. Take us through last night and kind of take us through where the Grizzlies are right now with as many players not available as available.
Yeah, it's been a real rough time for the Grizzlies this year. They've used 25 different players, 31 different starting lineups, signed Jordan Goodwin to a 10-day deal today. And the Grizzlies also getting up against it with their two-way players. Jacob Gilyard, two-way player playing for the Memphis Hustle and for the Grizzlies. Two-way players, if you have them from the start of the season, excuse me, you could have them for 50 games active. Well, he's getting close to 50 games. So he had to be inactive last night. And Scottie Pippen Jr. was the only point guard available to the Grizzlies last night, and he gets a sore back in the middle of the game. It's been that kind of year for the Grizzlies. It kind of encapsulates the way the season has gone. Didn't shoot the ball real well. They forced some turnovers early from New Orleans, but just didn't shoot the ball very well. They did get some production from guys like Trey Jemison, who was originally signed as a 10-day, now signed as a two-way player. Also Lamar Stevens, who came over in the Xavier Tillman trade, gave some good energy. And Yuta Watanabe returns to the Memphis Grizzlies and didn't shoot the ball well from distance, but did bring some energy. It's just been a situation where the five-man lineup that has played the most minutes together, it's totaled 68 minutes. And that lineup included Xavier Tillman, who's not with the team anymore. Just to give you a sense of how many moving pieces there have been for this basketball team this season.
And so with all of that, no great surprise that last night's loss was, what, the fifth straight for Memphis?
I wish it was only the fifth. It was the ninth.
Ninth straight loss? Oh, good Lord. Not exactly what folks expected at the season's onset, even with the early season suspension of John Morant, who has been back and is now out with the shoulder injury. Steven Adams, who never got on the floor this year and has since been traded. I mean, everything that could go wrong for this team has gone wrong for this team. Is that fair to say, Pete?
Yeah, that's pretty much been the case. And the injuries have been a lot of freak injuries. Desmond Bain steps on a foot. Marcus Smart steps on a foot. Kyrie Irving chops down on his hand and dislocates his finger. It's been that kind of year. And, Jake LaRavia came back after being out with a corneal abrasion, and he's on the floor for 2 minutes playing the New York Knicks and steps on somebody's foot. It's just been a season where It's been a lot of accidental injuries. It hasn't been overuse. It hasn't been anything other than just plain old bad luck. And at this point, the Grizzlies are so far out of even thinking about a playoff berth that right now they're going to be very conservative, bringing guys back. Desmond Bane, I don't know what the timetable is. Initially, it was the 6 weeks reevaluation. We're coming around to that point in time. But the Grizzlies aren't going to rush him back because at this point, you're just thinking more about next season. And that's what the Grizzlies are trying to do. They're bringing in a bunch of wings, trying to figure out who's going to pair best with Morant and Bane and Jaren going ahead next season.
Yeah, and that seems to be kind of the focus, I think, down the stretch here is maybe talent evaluation, Pete. And I guess I'm curious from your perspective, who are maybe some of these newer Grizzlies that maybe have a chance to potentially, during this little run here, make a little impression and find their way on the roster next year?
Well, I'm going to start with Yuta because he has some institutional knowledge of the Grizzlies and is familiar with the franchise and is a much improved player from the days when he was with Memphis, with his stops in Brooklyn and in Phoenix. So I think there's potential there for him because he's a good two-way player, good defensively. Struggled with the three ball last night, only 1 of 7, but he does have the ability to shoot 40% or better from three. I'm intrigued by Lamar Stevens. I mean, he came on the floor last night and did a lot of good things. Is that an outlier or is that the performance that the Grizzlies can expect from him? Those are two guys that I'm really, really curious about because they're on regular NBA contracts. Trey Jemison, meanwhile, he is on a two-way. So, there's an opportunity to develop him there with the Memphis Hustle in addition to playing NBA minutes with the Grizzlies.
Pete Pranica, ballet voice of the Memphis Grizzlies, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Pete, Memphis has never really been in this situation before, or it's been a while since they've been in this situation where they had relatively high expectations for this team and have suddenly had to kind of drop back and punt. How is everyone involved with this, embracing this, talent evaluation phase?
I think everybody's in a good frame of mind. I mean, as good a frame of mind as you can be to have put out the most different starting lineups in the NBA this season. The young guys are looking at it as an opportunity. The Grizzlies are going to have 3 guys next year on max or near max deals with Bane and Jackson and Morant. So you are looking for younger players who are going to come in at a lower salary level and hopefully that they can blossom. And the Grizzlies have had it as part of their cultural ethos to really work on player development. And Anthony Carter came from the Miami Heat where he did a remarkable job developing talent for them. Undrafted guys helping them to an NBA Finals appearance a year ago. And the hope is that they can continue to do that again. And when you look at, G.G. Jackson dropped all the way down, I think, to 45th in the NBA draft. Grizzlies have gotten tremendous performances out of him. The Grizzlies have had a history of finding guys at the tail end of the draft, Vince Williams Jr. being another example, and getting them from being two-way players into full NBA contracts. And so, the talent evaluation the Grizzlies have done in the past has been really, really good. Their talent development has also been really good. So they're hoping that they might strike it rich again with a couple more. But I think, the Vince Williams piece is something that really bears mentioning. Here's a guy last year, barely played with the Grizzlies, didn't shoot the ball real well. This year he's become a real lockdown defender and a very good offensive threat as well. And it's something that, the Grizzlies didn't really even anticipate him being a major part of their plans. He was a two-way player. Well, now he's got a full NBA contract and he's been starting. And I think it's 13 straight games now in double figures and having himself a career year.
With the Steven Adams situation at the beginning of the year, it was kind of obvious that Jaren Jackson Jr. was probably going to be the most affected by that because he was going to be asked to do a lot of stuff that isn't typically in his wheelhouse. How is he making that transition? Is he going to be more of a bona fide post player than he has been? How does that work out for him?
Well, I don't think he's going to be a post player necessarily. I mean, we had Xavier Tillman through the first part of the season, but he is playing more 5. There's no doubt about that. But Taylor Jenkins talks about positionless basketball. I think the key for Jaren is he's not going to be a traditional post-up player, but he does have to be a downhill player, does need to be a slasher, set up his three-point shot that way. We've seen him be among the league leaders in hook shots made, so he can play with his back to the basket. His game is so multifaceted that he can do a lot of different things. I think ideally, if the Grizzlies could get a big, and, is that Trey Jemison down the line? I don't know. Is there somebody else? Maybe you get in the offseason that can really play the 5, so Jaren can play his natural position, which is the 4. I think that would be the ideal setup for the Grizzlies going forward.
Pete, I got to ask you, I'm going to announce a high school basketball game tonight where I've had the same lineup basically all 20-plus games. For you as a guy that's done this for such a long time, how do you prep when you don't know necessarily who might even be on the team on a day-to-day basis, let alone who might be in the starting 5 or the heavy rotation?
You just prepare for everybody because you just don't know. Scottie Pippen Jr. had gone from starting to being inactive, and Taylor Jenkins was asked about that last night. Well, the fact of the matter is, Scottie's availability as a two-way player is prorated. If you have a two-way player from the start of the season, you get him for 50 games active. Well, Scottie signed midway through the season, so you don't have him for 50 games. And so, yeah, it's a revolving door, but you just prepare for everybody, and the chart gets a lot longer, and you hope it somehow fits on the desk, and you just have to be ready for anything and everything, and because anything can happen. We've certainly seen that. Like I said, I think we've had 18 different guys start a game, 25 different guys play, and 31 different lineups. It's been a challenge.
Yeah, you're definitely committed to the craft if you can pull that off like you do on a nightly basis. Hey, kind of just real quickly, big picture. I'm looking at the Western Conference standings. Are the Timberwolves going to be there down the stretch? I kind of kept waiting for this thing to maybe tail off, and these guys just keep winning games. I guess maybe evaluate them, and who are some other folks that you're looking at in the West maybe to really make some noise outside of obviously Denver or potentially the Clippers?
I think Minnesota's legit. I think the one issue with them is now they got Monte Morris to be a backup point guard, which they really needed, but they don't have the playoff experience. They don't have all the playoff scars that some of the other teams do. And speaking of playoff scars, you mentioned the Clippers. I like the Clippers. I mean, now they are very long in the tooth age-wise, but they figured out a way for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and James Harden to play together. Zubats is a very, very good 5. So I think if they can kind of get over all the heartbreak, I think they can be very dangerous in the playoffs.
Pete, I'm curious. I've covered minor league baseball in another life for a long time. The two-way situation, you said if a guy is on your roster at the start of this, on the Hustle's roster at the start of the season, he can play 50 games. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, if they're signed to a two-way contract,
okay.
Yeah, then they can be active for 50 games with the big club. That's if you have them on a two-way at the start of the season. If you sign them later in the season, then it becomes prorated.
Then it's prorated. Then it's whatever 50 of 82 over however many games you had him signed for.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the computation is, but it is prorated, sure.
That's wild. And so that's something that the coach and the general manager, I guess, have to deal with on a.
Yeah, they've got to figure it out. I mean, that you only have Scottie Pippen Jr. for a certain number of games, and Taylor Jenkins talked about it. He said, well, we signed Scottie when we had 40 games left in the season, but he doesn't have 40 games of NBA eligibility the rest of the season. And so that's why you've seen this rotation. So like Jacob Gilyard, one game he starts. Last night he was inactive. Pippen starts one game, he was inactive, and so they've been kind of flipping back and forth. And so if you ask me who's starting at point guard tomorrow, I have no idea. We'll find out tomorrow.
That's kind of the fun part, to show up and see.
And see, yeah. And I guess that's what you sell to your fans. Come and see who plays.
Yeah, exactly. But the guys were entertaining, and you're seeing young guys that are really battling for spots in an NBA rotation. And the Grizzlies down 25. You think the game's over, and all of a sudden they cut it down to 5 because Taylor Jenkins says, I'm gonna put all these young guys in. I'm gonna put in Lamar Stevens, who hasn't played for us yet. I'm gonna put in Yuta Watanabe, hadn't played for us yet. Trey Jemison's on a two-way contract. I'm gonna put these guys in, and lo and behold, they produced. and got the crowd on their feet, and definitely threw a scare into the Pelicans down the stretch.
That's pretty wild. Obviously, with the season that Memphis has had to this point, no representation on the All-Star team. Is that right?
Not on the All-Star team, but Vince Williams Jr. is an injury replacement in the Panini Rising Stars game, which is matchup of G League players and also first and second year NBA players. So he will participate in that. He's the lone representative for Memphis at the All-Star weekend in Indianapolis.
That's tough. But, I guess at least it's not like the Major League Baseball All-Star game where everyone is represented and you wind up having to force somebody on there that doesn't necessarily deserve to be. This is more reflective of real life. So. Pete Pranica, the Bally Sports voice of the Memphis Grizzlies, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Pete, man, we appreciate your time and good luck.
Thank you. We'll keep it going past the All-Star break, and looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out. There's always a good story to tell.
No doubt. Thank you, Pete.
And when we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint, we're going to look at some college hoops. We've got the most recent top 25 polls on both the men's and women's side and more. So stay tuned here from the Lee Company studios when we come back.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA. With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're going to talk a little college hoops here as the men's and women's Associated Press top 25s came out yesterday, as they typically do on Mondays. And very little movement in either of those. UConn still number one on the men's side, Purdue at 2. I guess Kansas fell from 3rd to 6th in anticipation of their loss at Texas Tech, I guess. That
I didn't get a chance to watch that game, but was keeping tabs on it a little bit on Gamecast, and yeah, it just sounded like Kansas almost either didn't play that great to begin with, or they just walked into a straight up buzzsaw.
I think it sounds kind of like it was a combination of the two, but you've been seeing that a lot on the road across college basketball. I mean, look no further than College Station on Saturday night.
Yep.
Speaking of buzzsaws. But what's crazy about this, though, is Kansas falls from 3 to 6, and who takes their place? Houston, who Kansas just beat, a couple of weeks ago?
Yep.
So I think it just really kind of speaks to the topsy-turviness of college basketball this year in particular. Marquette and Arizona rounding out the top 5. Kansas, Carolina, Tennessee slips 2 more spots to 8 following that loss at Texas A&M on Saturday. Duke's at 9, same spot as a week ago. Iowa State finishes out the top 10. South Carolina, at some point, they got to start getting a little national attention for what they're doing here. They are up to number 11, 21 and 3.
That is mind blowing. And it did. I think on this show we discussed they were predicted last in the SEC. Is that right?
I believe so. Somebody missed badly on that. The Gamecocks 11, Baylor, Auburn, Illinois, and Alabama 12 through 15, followed by Dayton and Creighton at 16 and 17.
I like that. Somebody was having fun on their polls there.
St. Mary's at 18, BYU, Wisconsin, Virginia, Kentucky. Joe Sullivan will be happy when we have him on tomorrow because Indiana State cracks the top 25 coming in at 23. The Sycamores 22 and 3 this week, 1 spot ahead of Florida Atlantic. Oklahoma closing out the top 25. Thoughts?
Thoughts were on this program last week. We were sitting here, and if Tennessee had kind of maybe taken care of business Saturday, maybe they slide back up into the top 25.
The top 5.
The top 5, excuse me, yes.
Yeah.
And so we also talked about Kentucky, obviously, and their woes that they have had. And, they're one of the biggest drops of the entire week. Wisconsin drops 9 spots after they got beat by my lowly Michigan Wolverines, only good for 1 or 2 decent wins this year, and they picked a great time to get it. They knocked off Wisconsin. They dropped 9. But, yeah, Kentucky kind of seems like they're in a crazy bit of funk right now. And then Gonzaga, I thought Gonzaga might sneak up a little higher. They're kind of firmly in the middle of that receiving votes. But then you flip over, and I've kind of got the 2 polls pulled up side by side. Indiana State, and Colorado State is also the 25th team in the coaches poll. So kind of nice to see a little diversity, and just kind of, I think, is setting the stage that I maybe not quite as chaotic as last year, but I feel like we're in for another really just wild tournament this year.
I think Florida Atlantic in their run last year really opened some folks' eyes to mid-majors because, again, Dayton, Creighton, and St. Mary's sitting right there at 16, 17, and 18. And, Indiana State and Florida Atlantic also in the top 25. I think that's kind of cool to see mid-majors getting that kind of attention, and not just at the bottom end, but in the middle of the poll with those 3 right there. So,
and we talked about Indiana State and how cool it would be. Obviously, you kind of, if you're rooting for them, which I think a lot of people are, you hope they just go ahead and take care of business and win the league and win the tournament and get in. But this maybe builds you a little credibility. Maybe not, but to me at least feels like, what else are we supposed to do? We were ranked. We say they finished the regular season or the run all the way to the finals and they lose. That'd only be their 4th loss. They got a pretty solid little resume for a mid-major. Would be kind of disappointing, but I kind of like seeing a squad like Indiana State, Colorado State's getting some love, St. Mary's and BYU, although BYU now
in the Big 12.
In the Big 12 being a little bit more of a quote-unquote household name. But I kind of like what I'm seeing. But you go back to your point with South Carolina. At some point, this kind of just becomes just – this ain't really a crazy Cinderella story so much as these guys are just flat out playing. And, what a turn of events for the folks over there in Columbia.
I really think it's cool just for former Chattanooga coach Lamont Paris to be getting it done over there in his second season the way he is. As to your assertion about Indiana State, I'm reminded of, and I'm sure he's not the only one that made it, but I'm reminded of a comment made by MTSU men's color analyst Kyle Turnham. Leave no doubt.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave this thing in the hands of the selection committee if you're Indiana State, because they will find a way for you to not get in if you don't take care of your business. I mean, resumes are really, unfortunately, for the major colleges.
Yep.
I'm not sure how hard a look they take at resumes if you're not the AQ coming out of a mid-major conference. And it's unfortunate, but I just think historically we've seen it. We've seen really, really, really good teams not get in.
Get left out. And we'll continue to see it. Someone, if it's not Indiana State, it'll be somebody, right? And I love bracketmatrix.com. They aggregate all of the polls. Indiana State is in 93 out of 94 potential polls that are anybody that submits a poll. Maybe we should do that and get aggregated in this year. But the crazy thing is, right, so they're aggregated and they're firmly in as a 10 seed, but you can't really speculate because you don't know how things will get shifted out of whack if they stub their toe in the tournament. And that's the crazy thing, as good as they are and as well as they played all year, if you're a mid-major and if you're not one of these big household name year in, year out mid-majors, one little thing goes wrong in the tournament, and that's unfortunately your entire season at that point.
Yep.
At least in terms of NCAA, the big dance aspirations.
Sure, which is really all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for their thoughts on the NIT or the CBI, but I got a feeling it goes for them too. It's boom or bust. They want in the big dance.
It's boom or bust, no question. South Carolina's 3 losses: at Clemson, at Alabama, and at Georgia. The latter 2 over a 3-game period in early/mid-January. The Gamecocks have won their last 2, 4, 6. Won their last 7, including that win against Vanderbilt over in Columbia on Saturday. So definitely rolling. They've got to go to Auburn tomorrow night, and then they've got LSU coming to their place on Saturday. Tomorrow night's a big game.
I was going to say, you're telling me we get Auburn and South Carolina on Valentine's Day? That is
number 11 South Carolina at number 13 Auburn.
That is a dandy of a matchup, right smack dab in the middle of the week. And that, I mean, if you got any doubts potentially about South Carolina, you go on the road and win that game as well. I mean, that's like, come on, you're just one step closer to, this isn't just a fun little story anymore, as these guys are legit.
Yeah. I think you really got to start taking them seriously, particularly if they get a win tomorrow night. Co-SEC leader, South Carolina.
Crazy. And I'm glancing at the SEC represented on the matrix here, and it is an impressive league. And we've talked about just how loaded they kind of are. SEC, Big 12, Big 10. Seems like they're going to get a massive amount of teams in. And Kentucky, as it sits right now, we've talked about their slide, they're kind of sitting around to like a 6 or 7. And some people were even maybe whispering, more so probably the folks up in Lexington and folks that are prone to wearing blue and white. But some folks are whispering, hey, this could be a sneaky team that could get hot and maybe make a run deep into March Madness. I mean, kind of challenging if you slide another game or two. Now all of a sudden you're talking about maybe falling to an 8 or 9, and then It's not usually a great recipe for long-term success.
It's
in the
really
tournament.
not. But here's the thing. I don't think you can ever use Kentucky and sneaky in the same phrase.
Good point. You're right.
I mean, I don't think there's ever a possibility that Kentucky's going to get overlooked. So.
And the interesting thing about that, when you got a blue blood like that, even if they're quote unquote down or they're in a little bit of a tailspin, it doesn't matter. The schools, they still want to beat them just now even more. Say, guess what? You may be down, but now we're really trying to come after you.
Well, they still want to beat them, and as we continue to talk about majors versus mid-majors, they're still going to catch every break. So
you feel like that for sure.
Yeah.
South Carolina currently projected as a 5 seed.
goodness,
Man, yeah, what a story over.
it's pretty amazing. And tomorrow night, as you said, down at Auburn, that kind of borders on must-see TV.
I was just thinking that. That's appointment television, pretty much.
They're just trying to keep up with the women.
That's all they're doing. Trying to just show they can play a little ball too. We already know who the real team on campus is. Some would say, but they say, hey, we got a little game too. It's kind of fun. Obviously, they had that crazy run several years ago now, to the Final Four. And yeah, you'd kind of just written them off as a fluke, and they're kind of back to normal. And then here we are, well over halfway through the season, and they are absolutely rolling.
They
are massive game tomorrow night.
And the women 23-0 following a big win on Monday against UConn, and I mean they are heads and shoulders above everybody else. It feels like. And I have inadvertently pulled up last week's poll, so give me a second.
And I'll be very curious. And as we kind of come down the stretch, last week we had talked about also, we had discussed the women's seeding and bracketology. We had talk about MTSU. We talked about Tennessee and kind of just where they may end up. And last week, if our memory serves me correctly, Tennessee was actually slated to be going to Boulder, Colorado in their regional. That has now changed. Tennessee they're on the bubble, but in a different capacity. They're potentially on that bubble for one of the last 4 byes, according to ESPN, along with Washington State, Green Bay, and Texas A&M. So the Lady Vols, we mentioned the win in the rundown last night versus Arkansas. They find themselves kind of potentially maybe trickling up a little bit. And I mentioned MTSU. They're currently projected as an 11 seed with the AQ and going to the Baton Rouge regional at the moment, where they would meet potentially Baylor in the first round. Subject to change. As some might
but
say,
I guess that would also be an LSU second round potential matchup there then.
If you're going to pull an upset, make them count, right?
There you go.
LSU, would be the 3 in that situation. Marshall would be their first round opponent, according to ESPN.com.
Very interesting. Any other teams of local? Where's Vanderbilt in that?
Oh, glad you said that. And I just saw them. Vanderbilt currently also firmly on the bubble, but they, according to ESPN.com, are one of the last 4 teams in the tournament, along with Michigan, Auburn, and Maryland. And at this current moment, Vanderbilt does slide into the tournament. Would have to, according to ESPN again, go in the play-in game where they would meet Maryland, and then the winner of that game is still in the Louisville regional where they would meet Utah. So Louisville, Utah, Louisville meeting Fairfield in the first round. So Vanderbilt is in, at least at the moment, so a chance to kind of maybe even bolster that resume here in the last couple of weeks.
It's really kind of interesting. Vanderbilt was one of the last undefeated teams in the country and not getting a whole lot of love. I think Shay Ralph has done a great job down there this year.
And it's funny you say that because I haven't kept up with women's college hoops outside of the big programs and the big games this year. But I do vaguely remember glancing through the standings at one point earlier this year, and I was thinking, Vanderbilt's, they're the only undefeated team remaining. So it kind of caught my eye, kind of noteworthy. And so, yeah, they've got some work to do after kind of a fast start, but they're in for now.
Mm-hmm. Here's an interesting tidbit that I ran across while trying to find something else. Associated Press story here out of Indianapolis. A former basketball coach at Sewanee
Okay.
violated NCAA rules by placing more than $93,000 in bets on college and professional sports while serving as an assistant for the men's team and head coach for the women's team. The association announced Tuesday while handing down sanctions. The Division III school, also known as the University of the South, in case there was any question which school we were talking about.
Right.
And NCAA enforcement staff agreed that over a 26-month period, the coach knowingly broke rules that ban athletic department employees from wagering on the sport in which they participate. The coach, who was not identified in the NCAA's report, placed 407 bets on college sports, totaling $28,000, including 20 wagers on women's college basketball games. None of those games included his own team. I don't know that you can get a line on Division III women's basketball. Now, I could be wrong.
That's a question for Yao and maybe Terry and our friends at Zen Sports, because I'm not familiar with any of that getting put out on the web.
I'm not. I mean, I don't keep up enough with that.
Hey, real quick, since you mentioned Sewanee, while I was kind of pulling up some stuff I was trying to find that story. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me currently who the head football coach at Sewanee is?
Oh yeah, Andy McCollum.
Okay, so you were aware of that. That popped up on my radar. I missed that news headline.
Yeah.
So man, 32nd ever head football coach. I don't know that he'll be able to repeat some of the performances from the long years ago of Sewanee, but I did not know that. So man, congrats to my guy Andy Mack out there.
Oh yeah, he's in the saddle down there running things. The Tennessee Sports Wagering Advisory Council informed Sewanee about wagering activity by the coach in March 2023. Brody Curry stepped down as Sewanee's women's coach on July 14th. He previously served as an assistant coach for the men's team from 2020 to 2022. The coach, who again is unidentified by the NCAA, was given a show cause order, which comes with a 5-game suspension, to be served at the start of the first season of employment if he is hired by another NCAA institution over the next 2 years. Sewanee has been placed on a year's probation and fined $1,500 because the coach and the school accepted the penalties, neither may appeal. So that's wild.
You know, the optimist in me and the eternal kind of wheel spinning. Picture this. If I'm the president or athletic director at a university and I'm looking to turn around a program or raise some funds or make a splash, what if I'd hire a brand new baseball coach, Coach Bohannon perhaps maybe. What if I hire a brand new basketball coach and you just hire them both? And then if they get strong enough on the court, apparently you can find ways to bet on even small college games. Then you could just parlay that money, and then now you could really make some funds raised for your university. I'm not saying that's a great scheme, but I feel like it's a semi-decent scheme there if you're looking to take a little risk there as an AD.
Take a little risk. On that note, we will take a little break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. When we come back, we will be joined by the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. Stay tuned.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Since 1975, Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic has treated the orthopedic needs of Middle Tennessee residents. The trained physicians provide surgical options and minimally invasive options to treat all orthopedic needs. The walk-in clinic, OrthoQuick, helps you bypass the ER while treating sports injuries and acute needs Monday through Saturday. Visit MTBJ online at mtbj.net or on social media at Mid-Tennessee Bone Joint Clinic. This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee Sports Editor, three-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best looking girl Bananarama, so the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice.
Welcome back for Top 5 Tuesday, hour number 2 here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And it's a good week to be an MTSU athletics fan, as we are now joined by the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. Chip, both the men's and women's basketball teams won on Saturday, and 3 guys got Super Bowl rings on Sunday.
Not bad, huh?
That's solid.
Yeah.
That's solid.
Yeah.
And you're rocking the. Is that a Derek Mason vestie there that you got?
No, this was actually navy blue, and it just when I saw it snowing last night at 10:30, and I thought I might need a little extra something today. So, can you guess where I am today, Mo? Where am I?
It looks like, well, it is a press box. It looks like Greer, but not Greer.
No.
I'm sorry, First Horizon. No. Where?
No.
Where are you?
You were right on. It is at a baseball field. It is a press box. What would be the logical guess?
It's
Reese
not
Smith
Reese
Field?
Smith Field, is it?
Yeah. Over
I've
here.
not been to the prep. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
what are you doing
getting
over
ready
there?
for home opener Friday. So today is the day I'm setting up radio equipment and checking lines and going through the list of things that are and are not working. So better to do it today than Friday at 2:30 before the 3:00 game.
Here's the most important thing that needs to be working, as you mentioned, the 10:30 snow last night and the vest and a little extra. Is the heat working?
I think it is. I think it is. It's very comfortable in here right now, and the cleaning crew is over here giving it a good deep clean before the season gets underway on Friday, and they're pressure washing the concourse today, and the team is they're on the field, and they are taking ground balls, as you can see right there.
There we go.
And so there's a little infield practice going on, sun shining here at the Reese, and getting ready for the Bowling Green Falcons to come flying in here on Friday.
So did Coach Myers have the tarp down last night?
That I don't know, but the field looks good. I mean, I do know that they did not have it down during the other snowstorm, and it worked out good for them. I know there were some fields that had the tarp down and it was down for what, 8-9 days on some fields. And this one, they felt like that it was going to be better for them to let it breathe a little bit, even though there may be snow on top of it, knowing that they were going to get on it anyway. Right. So right now the infield grass looks really good, and especially those areas right in front of the dugouts. It's in the outfield looks very lush, and green at this point. So that's this early in the year. That's pretty good.
Nice. 3 o'clock Friday, 2 o'clock Saturday, 1 o'clock Sunday, right?
That's correct. And then a midweek trip to Alabama, and then another home series after that. So they're outside of the Alabama game. They're home. They're at home for the rest of the month of February.
Okay. I'm not sure how much starters on the bump matter first weekend, because I would imagine Coach Myers is going to want to see a lot of arms. But do we know who the starters are?
Not yet. They haven't come out with that just yet. And I would say that this week is going to be today, tomorrow, Thursday are going to be really key. And not only who your rotation is going to be, they probably have a good idea. They're just not, releasing that too much just yet. But they, as far as their infield is concerned, because you think they had a week that they were supposed to be on the field that there was snow on the field. Mm-hmm. Then the following week it rained all week. So they're a little bit behind as far as actual time on the field. But they fortunately the Stephen Smith clubhouse had been redone over the off season and had new goat turf in the indoor, so they've been able to pitch and hit. And really, the one thing that they really probably lost more time at anything is what they're doing right now is infield and outfield practice.
Chip, real quick, staying with Diamond Sports, it was a tough start to the year for the softball program. But I'm glancing at the schedule, 0-5, yes, but am I reading this correct? 4 of the 5 games were one-run games as they went out to California, and then they get ready to go to Florida. Maybe the West Coast, not so good for them, but maybe a chance for some better luck in the Sunshine State.
Yeah, hopefully the West Coast of Florida will be better than the West Coast of California, but you're right. 4 of them were one-run games, and 3 of them were walk-offs. So, that just adds a little extra sting to it. But, I think the one thing, the takeaway is you got pretty good pitching early. The run totals were not big. I mean, there was, 5-4, 3-2, things like that. You were getting beat 9-1, things like that. So the pitching has been there. And, hopefully as things warm up, Coach Pete and Coach Stanford always used to talk about warm weather equals warm bats. So hopefully that's the case for them because they've got 2 more weekends in Florida. They go to Fort Myers this weekend and they're in Madeira Beach the following weekend. And, 5 games, they'll have 15 games under their belt in a matter of 16 days, something like that. So that's getting some experience early and finding out what you got because your conference season will start somewhere right around March 1st.
As you mentioned, lost 4-3 to UC Davis, lost 8-2 to St. Mary's, 4-3 to Cal Poly, 5-4 to Sacramento State, and 3-2 to San Jose State. So again, 4 one-run losses and, gave up 5 runs or less in 4 of those games.
Yeah.
You'll take that, especially first weekend of the season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's in all of those teams that they played were California-based teams who did not have any weather issues as far as practice is concerned. So, you kind of take that with a grain of salt and move forward and get yourself right as you move through these next couple of weekends.
Chip, before we shift into basketball, let's talk a little bit about this Super Bowl. Richie James, Darius Harris, and Isaiah Gathings, again, picking up Super Bowl rings with Kansas City's 25-22 overtime win over San Francisco. And for Darius Harris, it's his 3rd.
That's right. He's got 3 of them now. He passed Don Griffin, and so to now have 3 of them. And what would be your guess on the total number of former Blue Raider players that have Super Bowl rings now? What would you say the total is?
Now, I saw the graphic, but I did not count. I didn't count, so I actually do not know. My guess is 12.
11. So Good guess there. Yeah, there were 11. Ray Oldham was the first to gain one, and obviously the big three this year. And Mike Caldwell is the only former Blue Raider player who's gotten a Super Bowl ring as a coach when he was with Tampa Bay. So there's so congratulations to those. That's a pretty good. To me, that's almost as impressive as Middle having 4 guys in the game and 3 ended up winning rings this year. But to have 11 overall, the 4, by the way, was not only the most in Conference USA, it was the most of any Group of 5 program, and I think really something to be proud of. And those guys played well.
That would play well on the recruiting trail, would it not?
I would think that we will find out, because I promise you it's going to be used. Matter of fact, if you follow the MT Football Recruiting Twitter account, it got a lot of play on that account over the weekend, for sure.
Yeah, what a great recruiting pitch kind of to have at your disposal there, especially for obviously a potential splashy hire there with Coach Mace. Hey, Chip, real quick, shift gears, if you would. Tell us about basketball. Obviously, we got a really strong performance over the weekend, and we got New Mexico State coming in on Thursday.
Yeah, for the guys.
Sorry.
Yeah, for the guys, it's we had Coach McDevitt's radio show last night, and the second halves of the game at Western and the game at Liberty are really the 2 blemishes on what has been a pretty good 5-game stretch. Middle's won 3 of those. They've gotten themselves straightened out some, turned it over too much at Liberty, and that one got away from them. Same thing happened at Western in the second half, but this kind of turnaround actually started at New Mexico State a couple of weeks ago, and then the game at FIU on Saturday. And I know you guys are around it enough. Sometimes, winning is great. It's always a good thing. But sometimes how you win the game may pay bigger dividends than other wins. And I thought, because this team was down 12 at the under 12 media timeout, found a way to come back, chip away at it. They got a couple of their best players in foul trouble, and were able to come back, chip away at it, and then make 2 big plays down the stretch to grab the lead. One on a Jared Coleman Jones, which he came back and had a double-double, and that's when Middle's been at their best during this whole streak, is when the offense runs through him and runs inside out, and that's what happened again Saturday. But that and Justin Porter, who was coming off, either bad cold or a mild case of the flu or something. He just wasn't feeling good at Liberty. But for him to come and, kind of put the team on his shoulders, make a big play at the end, and then a good defensive play to stop Arturo Dean on a finger roll that would have tied the game. And, I think that type of win and the way they got it really, I think, will pay dividends for this team. And, New Mexico State's a game they could have won. They had the lead. They were up 3 with 5 minutes to play out there. And New Mexico State's lost one of their better players, who has been suspended indefinitely due to the punch he threw against the Liberty player not long after Middle played out there. And then UTEP is a challenge, because they are the number 1 team in all of college basketball at forcing turnovers. And if you remember, that was not a fun night out in the West Texas town of El Paso, when Middle had 27 turnovers that night and still kind of remained in the game. So if you get home, take care of the ball, you'll have a shot. But ball care is going to be the number 1 priority in both of these games. Ball care and shot selection, which, I'm no James Naismith, but I can still figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Quiet as it's kept, Chip, for a team that was considered by many to be dead in the water. Middle has won 3 of its last 5.
They have, and if you look at the league standings, Louisiana Tech got beat last week. Things have tightened up, and if Middle could win 2 at home, then they go to Jack State, who they have beaten. They go there next Wednesday, but there's an opportunity to, you could come out of the weekend in 4th place if everything fell right, because there's a whole lot of 4, 5, and 6 loss teams already in this first way through, and this will be game 2 of the second way through. And the schedule right now, it falls in Middle's favor a little bit. Of 7 remaining games, 4 at home, 3 on the road, and there are no 2-game. We've played our last 2-game road trip. We've got a single game next Wednesday at Jack State, then the following week, single game on Saturday at La Tech, and to end the season, a single game at Sam Houston. So it's there's a lot of meat on the bone right now, and Middle's in an opportunity where they have a chance to redeem themselves here in this second half of the season.
And you've got some guys playing well at the right time. Elias King with a big game in that FIU win.
Yeah, Elias King. Jared Coleman-Jones has to continue to play well. Justin Porter playing well, and even though his point totals were down this past weekend, but I don't know if I have the words to tell you just how yucky he was feeling last week, but he was, and also Trey Green has really given them a boost with some minutes off the bench and given them a little bit of scoring punch, but. Mostly the thing he can be counted on. He's really a good rebounder for his size, and also plays pretty good defense. So, his minutes are becoming more and more valuable to him.
On the women's side, Savannah Wheeler is going to be Savannah Wheeler, right?
She does Savannah Wheeler things all the time, and Conference USA Player of the Week. Another one of my faves, Courtney Whitson. She joined maybe the most elite club at Middle women's basketball this past weekend, and she became only the second 1,000 rebound player in program history.
The second.
She joins Ebony Rowe. Hold on, I got to tell Brian Barrett to hold on. Anyway, yeah, she's only the second. She and Ebony Rowe are the only 1,000 rebound players in program history. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I would not have guessed Ebony Rowe. My guess was going to be Priscilla Robinson, but
either that or Holly Hoover would have been up there with me, or Jennifer McFall.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's solid.
I think we just named a pretty good lineup right there that we could go with.
We did. I don't know who's going to bring it up, but I guess Jay. But we'll recruit Kim Webb. Let her do that. So, and we didn't even include Alicia Clark. So, well, she was only there 2 years.
That's right.
Yeah. This team is 19-4 right now. You talk about second time through the conference. What are they, 9-0 in conference play now?
Mm-hmm. They are. They're 9-0, and they've got 7 left, and they've got 3 at home, 4 on the road during this time period. So, they go to New Mexico State and UTEP. They play New Mexico State Thursday night in Las Cruces. UTEP over the years has been a little bit of a thorn in their side, but right now Middle's playing so well, and they've got so many weapons. And if you want to try to pack it in on them, they'll shoot you out of that. And if you try to run them off the 3-point line, they'll go inside. So this is maybe his best balanced team that he's had. And right now they're all locked in, playing the way they want to play and moving ahead. So, I think they're going to go into the conference tournament. 26-4. They've got 7 left. I think. I'm not going to say I'd be shocked. I would say I'd be surprised if they don't go into the conference tournament with 26-4, 25-5, something like that.
Yeah. And for all of the people that you talk about on this team, Tamia Scott feels like she has kind of become an X factor.
She has. I mean, she brings it every day, and the thing is, her skill package is probably the most
diverse.
The most diverse of any of those. Savannah Wheeler is what she is, but she's not the rebounder that Tamia Scott is. So there's a lot of that. Tamia may not be the overall shooter that Jalen Gregory is, but I would say Tamia and Courtney Whitson are probably the best overall players that have the size to rebound and also have the other skills that go along with it. But, of the 5 that they start and the 7 that they play, mostly there's not a lot of weakness in that lineup right now.
You just mentioned something that I wonder how concerning it is. Clearly, it's not terribly concerning to the folks that matter. 7-person rotation. Where is fatigue in terms of being a factor?
Well, I understand what you're saying, and that, and everybody kind of shortens their bench a little bit at this time of year, especially when you get to conference tournament time. But it's not that unusual to see middle place 7 or 8, and here, when they've had some games get out of hand, they've gone deeper to try to give those folks, that are getting a lot of minutes, give them some rest. But, he's one of those guys, Coach Ensel's one of those guys that for you to be out there, he's got to have his, he's got to have his trust of what you're going to do. And they're not above making a statement around this league, and they've done that so far this year in the way that they have jumped out here. Now that they have, they've swept FIU, who was pretty much thought of as the second best team in the league. The
second best?
Yeah.
At least one bracketologist thought they were the best team in the league.
That was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that was before the 30-point beatdown in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But, the from people who saw the game against Liberty here, they, talk about how Liberty probably has the best makeup of a team that can challenge middle a little bit. And they did for a good portion of the game here in Murfreesboro. But, Lady Raiders have to go to Liberty, and that'll be a tough 40 minutes. It's a tough environment to play in. They draw well. They're loud, and it will be a similar atmosphere for them to play in that opponents have to play in when they come to Murphy Center.
Chip, while we got you here real quick, give us an update. We kind of opened with a little football discussion, but I know they kind of are tinkering with some things, getting ready to kind of get some stuff going. What's the latest on MT football at the moment?
Well, I think one thing that they've done, I think they're looking at spring games somewhere around April 13th. So I know there's some schools that are starting spring ball like this week or next.
Yeah.
But I think Coach Mason has kind of pushed things back just a little bit because, new staff, all of that. And I think they're going to start about the 3rd week of March and get those 15 practices in during a matter of 3.5 weeks or so, as opposed to stretching it out over 4 or 5 weeks. And so we're waiting to hear more details on that. But I think that's kind of the general look at what the calendar is. And, they're just right now doing off-season work. And if you follow the football Twitter account, there have been some really good videos up of Coach Blatnick, the strength coach. Demonstrating some of the stuff in the weight room. Then his demonstrations are pretty impressive, and also some snippets out of team meetings, which have been pretty interesting to see.
How close, Chip, is the staff to being complete? Do you know?
I think I think all the full-time guys are done. There may be some GAs or things like that, but all the full-time position coaches are done. That's all completed.
Any holdovers?
Let's see. I'm trying to think here right now. Well, Dustin Royston was going to be, but he went to Murray State. You've got staff holdovers right now, but it looks like I think everything else is new. I'm going blank right now, but there you go.
Okay. All right. Well, great. The Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, joining us as he does virtually every Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. You can find him on Twitter at ChooseChip. And if you're looking for an abode, be sure and reach out to him.
And do just that. Choose Chip.
Choose Chip. Chip, we appreciate you. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you,
All
Chip.
right, see you.
When we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint, it's the grab bag. Stuff that we need to talk about.
Got to get discussed.
But not a lot. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA. With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. It's Top 5 Tuesday, and in the final segment of the day, we will be giving you our top 5 individual Super Bowl performances. So again, we're going to get to that here in a bit. Right now, it's the grab bag, things that kind of popped up on our radar that we need to get to. One of them being former Marshall County High School Mr. Football, Dante Hightower, who went on to play collegiately at Alabama and professionally with the New England Patriots, is returning to the ladder as linebackers coach under newly named head coach Gerard Mayo.
Whew.
who played the same position, by the way.
Man.
Yeah, that's Dante retired a couple of years ago, I guess. Well, last March.
Last March, yeah.
Last March, okay. Did not play the 2020 season in light of the pandemic that was going on, and then again announced his retirement last March following the 2022 season. But is headed back as linebackers coach, I guess, at the request of the new head coach, Gerard Mayo. I don't know if he was back in Lewisburg. He had kind of relatively fallen off the radar, I guess, after he retired, but keeping a pretty low profile. He's regarded as one of the best linebackers in Patriots history, a group that also includes Andre Tippett, Mike Vrabel, Steven Nelson, and Teddy Bruschi, among others. And again, these two guys played together for a short period of time. Hy and I have always had a great relationship. I was older. He was like a young pup, Mayo said, last year prior to ascending to the head coaching role. But he was very smart. He was very athletic. I got a chance to play beside him. I got a chance to coach him. There aren't many people like Hightower in terms of just his smarts. I think that gets overlooked a lot with Hy. Hy is a very smart football player. And so Coach Mayo is expecting Hy to pass some of those smarts along to the next generation of Patriot backers. So
this kind of is a bit of a surprise to me because I'm like you, Dante had kind of kept a little bit of a low profile. He had gone back and kind of active a little bit in Lewisburg, kind of just maybe, I guess, plotting his next move. I didn't necessarily hear any whispers or hadn't heard any kind of inkling that he was maybe thinking about getting into coaching, and then poof.
Yeah.
Talk about a first gig.
There you go.
Linebackers coach of the Patriots. Him and
for
Mayo,
your coaching debut, that's...
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, you got to really, we see some coaches, they really have to grind their way up to the top. But talk about Hightower, that's a great spot for him to land. And him and Mayo, just two of the all-time greats at the position with the franchise there. That'd be a fun combo seeing them two together, I think.
Well, it's interesting. I'm looking now at an article on the Patriots website, and the comments that we referenced were from an interview from last year that Mayo had about Dante. He also said at that time, I think Hightower would be a phenomenal coach, so we'll see. When I get a chance to run my own ship, I'll try to recruit him. He did, and he did.
Yep.
So.
And kind of like how nobody really knew the terms and stipulations of Mayo's contract. They were telling us exactly what was going to happen a year ago, and
clearly,
we just none of us knew it, man.
Or none of us were paying attention. I don't guess. I don't know. Selected in the first round of the 2012 draft out of Alabama. I didn't realize this. Hightower had a scoop and score in his very first game. It's one way to make an impact.
Yeah, that's talk about busting onto the scene.
Yeah, and continued making plays from that point forward, I guess. So
I'll say this too. It was, we're a little biased. Obviously, we got to cover him and kind of watch him play at a local level, so I always kind of root for those guys. But it even kind of blew me away a little bit how kind of beloved he is with that franchise. I just wasn't expecting him to. I knew he was going to be an elite NFL player. I didn't know that he would yet be kind of just so universally beloved in New England. And boom, here we are. He's going to be universally, I think, welcomed in to the fold there. So what a continued kind of career step for him.
Absolutely. It's fun to see. It's always nice, man, when you get to see these local guys continue to do things on a national level like that. I've always gotten a kick out of that, so that's pretty cool.
And I've heard good things. Like I said, been kind of back in Lewisburg a little bit, and kind of like Shaq here in Columbia, kind of active in the community, maybe not to the degree in terms of publicity, but I've heard nothing but good things about the community and him still being involved. Now, I believe it's his cousin, Kel Hightower, is either a freshman or sophomore and had a really good year So if I remember correctly, came to a couple games this year, kind of supporting him. And so really cool story, like we said, him getting kind of picked up. And Tennessee fans may groan a little bit, but, you know, everybody else, if you can put that to the side, I think this is a really neat angle for us here.
Well,
locally.
the good thing is if he does well, then Gerard does well.
Then that's a good way of looking at it. You're exactly right there.
There you go. Rookie Victor Wembanyama in the news following his performance last night against Toronto. Triple-double, 27 points, 14 boards, 10 blocks. Also 5 assists and 2 steals in the Spurs 122-99 win. But it's the 10 blocks that makes particular news for Wembanyama as he becomes the second youngest player in NBA history with double-digit blocks in a game.
That is bonkers, and I am kicking myself. Duty called, had to cover the Lady Bobcats last night.
When that happens.
But I was getting blown up with some text. Are you seeing this? You know, the League Pass watchers were kind of hitting me up, and here's some more to put it into context, and then. There's always a local tie. I'll make another point at the end of this. But this is from StatMuse on Twitter. These are the last 3 players that have had a 25, 10, 5, and 10 block game. Spoiler, they're the only 3 players. And it's David Robinson and Hakeem and now Wemby. And then last night with that triple-double, he also buried his 75th three-pointer, 150th assist, 150th block. He's the first player ever to have that trio of stats in NBA history, and he's done it in 48 games.
Now, hit me again.
75 threes, 150 assists, 150 blocks. And he's the only player in NBA history to have achieved that feat, and he's done it in 48 games. And the point I was going to make with the local angle was there was some chatter last night. This guy's going to end up being the first ever, I assume the first ever at least in NBA history, to record a quad double. But we remember our guy Lester Hudson at UT Martin years ago for the Skyhawks. He notched at that time, I want to say the first one ever, maybe still one of the only ones ever at the collegiate level. So if you tell me tomorrow that Wemby's going to have a quad double after watching what we saw last night, yeah, the sky. And this is why obviously so much expectations were kind of placed on this guy. And, you know, some folks have kind of tuned out a little bit because the team was not great. Yeah, the rest of the team is not necessarily great by any stretch, or actually pretty bad. But this is an insane...
Which makes 5 assists even more impressive.
Yeah, you got to have a guy that can go out and hit your 5 passes, whether it's a shot or a layup. And at times this year, that's been a real stretch. So what a show last night. This guy is just a walking highlight reel. And like I said, I had to miss it. But holy moly, what a triple-double.
Wembanyama is just the 4th rookie to record a triple-double with blocks. Mark Eaton and Ralph Sampson each did it in '83. David Robinson did it 3 times in 1990, which means 4 of your 6 triple-doubles with blocks were recorded by Spurs.
That's what they do, apparently.
Apparently, that is what they do, yeah. And his 10 blocks is one more than the career high of 9 set by Tim Duncan. This dude's keeping some pretty significant company here.
You know, and we talked to Pete Pranica from the Grizzlies just about an hour ago, and we mentioned the All-Star Weekend coming up. He is going to be participating in the Skills Challenge, and as I'm reading the story about his selection, I'm trying to think. I don't know that anything would necessarily preclude him. Maybe there's a rule that you couldn't participate in all the events. But number one, I was thinking watching him in the skills is going to be amazing. And then I thought it would be hilarious and awesome to see him in the dunk contest just for, well, being as tall as he is, obviously. And then I was like, he could also be a decent competitor, if not a potential favorite in the three-point contest. So if there's not a rule for this, next year we need to get him somehow, whatever it takes to get him in all 3 events.
In all of them, in everything. Yeah, I mean, he's got the full array of skills. Let's see him. The youngest player obviously, to record a triple-double with blocks. 20 years and 40 days. He's 20 years old, and he just turned 20.
Mental.
When whoever came up with the phrase, the sky's the limit, had to have this guy in mind.
Well played. And he's only busted it out a few times, to my knowledge, this year. But his game is just so crazy. He's got this move where he can basically shoot a running three off of one leg. And it's basically impossible to block his shot as is. Mm-hmm. But when he goes to that move, it's literally impossible. And you're thinking, oh, well, this is a shot you would see when the shot clock is running down, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just a move he has. And he only has, like I said, attempted it a couple times this year, but he's drained every one that I've seen at least. And he's worth tuning in, as bad as the Spurs are, just to see if something like this could happen. And presumably they're going to get better.
Dude is a cheat code.
Walking cheat code.
Ted Leonsis could use a cheat code.
Could he ever?
Because the owner of the Washington Wizards and Washington Capitals, looking to move both to Alexandria, Virginia, is meeting with some resistance on the part of some Virginians, apparently. Virginia Senator L. Louise Lucas said that the proposed Virginia Senate bill that was meant to fund a potential new arena won't be approved, at least not as currently constructed. As long as the full faith and credit of the Commonwealth is backing this project, my answer continues to be an absolute no. That's pretty unequivocal. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no wiggle room there.
No. And yeah, how many statements do we see come out where there's usually a little
leeway? No. We are not doing this. I will not allow it. So back in December, Leonsis announced plans along with Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin to move both teams out of Washington into Virginia. Mm-hmm. It was controversial then. Clearly it continues to be. The project, as proposed, would include a $2 million sports district where the arena would be, along with a 3,000-seat music venue, hotels, and headquarters for Leonsis' business, Monumental Sports and Entertainment. But like we said, it apparently becomes a Lee Corso kind of thing. Not so fast, my friend.
Hold the phone, Joan, as some would say. And to me, at the footnote here, if funding were to get approved, construction could begin early 25 and then move in 28. Mm-hmm. And it would just be sad for the local fans. It's always sad for the local fans, but just especially after the Warriors have moved, and that was met with a lot of resistance, and it just seemed that it kind of got pushed through despite that resistance. This would be also kind of sad.
Well, and the ongoing drama with the Oakland Athletics and their move. I mean, it's wild that pro sports isn't as international, is not as accepted as some of these owners might expect necessarily, because there's always a check on the other end of it, I guess. And
it really is just, that's the real thing, is it's always frustrating because usually, if nothing else, this is coming down to just leverage between the owners and just
somebody.
Capitalist endeavors coming out. It's just frustrating every time you read, whether it's a stadium dispute or I'm threatening to move the team. Really, to me, all of it ends up just kind of being posturing either for a new deal or more money from the city council or things of that nature. And it's just always kind of sad to see kind of how it plays out, because usually ends up, more often than not, there's very few owners, they're actually funding whole stadiums by themselves at that point.
All right. When we come back
Wizards 9-44, by the way. Just they said the Wizards are 9-44, just for a final note.
Maybe that's why Virginia doesn't want them.
We actually just don't want them. Just not because we don't want a team, just don't want
we
that
just don't
team.
want that team. There we go. It's Top 5 Tuesday when we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stay with us.
This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. She's on Thinking Out Loud, presented by Regions, and Out of Pocket with Alyssa Lang. It is, in fact, Alyssa Lang.
I'm a little nervous. I'm going to lower the bar for guests now.
Oh, no.
Like, apologies in advance. It sounds like
SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey.
Got that radio voice.
I do.
It's a good sound.
Thanks for radio too.
As do we. And then here's the other thing. You guys, you're spot on with the name. Everybody wants to be on Main Street. Everybody wants to be on Main Street. So,
and we reach every main street in Middle Tennessee, Coach.
Yeah, that's it. So
Perfect.
when you're on Main Street and you are moving,
you gotta love it.
Like you're moving. I was impressed.
I'm glad someone.
Come on.
Hey, folks. My goodness me.
Lord.
Mark, cut that.
I just don't know what to say. That was Chris Yao. I am Maurice Patton. That is Wade Neely, and we are here on the Top 5 Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. And clearly, Chris is just too busy for us today.
You know, I glanced up. It was when Chip Walters was with us earlier, and you were asking a question. I looked across the hall, and I said, is that who I think that is? And, yeah, Mr. Yao is in the building.
He's in
and we sent him a photo of him hard at work, and he didn't even register. So that tells you how hard working that young man is.
He was intensely looking at something. Spreadsheets, maybe, like you said. But, yeah. I mean, I'm just shocked, really, that Chris Yao is in the building and not on the show. Particularly on Top 5 Tuesday.
I mean, this is what when he popped up in here just now.
I figured he was just going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He must not have a good top 5 prepared.
He probably.
Mine's not great, but his must not be.
He may not have a
strong.
good top 5 prepared. And it's understandable because it's a pretty tough one. Top 5 Super Bowl individual performances on the field, in the game, not halftime. We've done that one before. But top 5 player performances in the big game. So let's see what we come up with. And if y'all got any thoughts, hit us up with them at ms_sports today on Twitter or X, however you care to refer to it. But Wade, I will let you start.
That is mighty kind of you, and I'm going to have to go right out of the gate. Maybe the greatest statistical Super Bowl, one of the greatest statistical Super Bowl performances of all time. And I have this Sports Illustrated cover still at my house, and it's etched into my childhood memory. Give me Steve Young absolutely throttling the Chargers, 325 yards, 6 touchdowns.
And also 49 rushing yards on 5 carries.
Yeah. And what was the stat? Was that right? Did I hear that the other night, that Mahomes was the first quarterback to lead his team in passing and rushing in the Super Bowl since Steve Young?
Sounds right.
I think I got that right. And, you know, obviously neither one ran for a substantial amount of yards, but it just shows how effective they were throwing and running, I suppose. So I'll take Steve Young over the Chargers as my first selection.
That's a good one. I'm going to stay with quarterbacks. I'm going to go back to Super Bowl 22. Doug Williams riddled Denver for 340 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 42-10 victory, throwing it around for the Redskins which is what they were then. So it's okay. But yeah, Doug Williams is my,
iconic performance.
it really was. Yeah.
Wasn't that he just broke barriers, but man, just absolutely delivered in every sense of the word there.
And leave no doubt.
Yes.
As we said earlier in the show about something else. Yeah, I mean, he was clearly the best player on the field that Sunday. That was awesome to watch.
Second pick for me, I'm going to stay with a little recent, not in the super recent, but I'm going to go Terrell Davis. Had an electric performance for the Broncos, rushing for 157 yards with a Super Bowl record 3 touchdowns. And I found this stat. I don't necessarily know that I guess they were playing back then, but somebody has pointed out that would equate to roughly 33.5 fantasy football points for those that would have potentially been playing Super Bowl fantasy, I suppose. And so TD, kind of the, Elway gets a lot of the praise and, has the highlights that kind of live on forever. But what an electric performance and career Terrell Davis, and capped with that performance there in Super Bowl 32.
32 in a 31-24 win over the Packers. And he did that, 157 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, with a migraine.
Yeah. I remember I was just kind of blown away. I'm like, how could you even possibly think about playing a physical sport like that and then delivering that type of performance?
Well, I guarantee you he made Green Bay's head hurt. So, staying with running backs, I'm going to go back to that Super Bowl 22, that 42-10 Washington win over Denver, because if Doug Williams had not been MVP, Timmy Smith would have been. 22 carries, 204 rushing yards, and a pair of touchdowns in that victory. So Williams and Smith accounted for all 6 touchdowns for the Redskins in that win over Denver. Yeah, that's my number 2.
This is a homer pick. Not the greatest of stat lines, but the legend and the aura kind of, in my mind, make it one of the greatest performances. As a Jets fan, give me Broadway Joe delivering the guarantee. His stat line, again, not that great. 17 of 28 passing for 206 yards. He did win MVP. He was the first player in Super Bowl history, which I guess it was only Super Bowl 3, but he was MVP without actually scoring or throwing a touchdown in that game, which I didn't necessarily realize till just now, but now I'm kind of scratching my head. How do you win MVP if you don't even throw or rush a touchdown?
You don't account for a touchdown. Jeez.
I'm about to go back and watch the tape a little more on Super Bowl 3, I suppose.
I guess you got to be Joe Namath, probably.
16-7 was the final score in that game, and so not a lot of scoring, but to me, that would lead to the case for the touchdowns that were scored more than anything.
It would seem. That's interesting. My number 3, Jerry Rice had 11 catches for 215 yards and a touchdown in the 49ers Super Bowl 23 win over Cincinnati, 20-16. That's as good a game on as big a stage as you're going to see a receiver have. So Jerry Rice is my number 3.
Number 3. I've got Steve Young. I've got Terrell Davis. I've got Joe Namath. This one may sting for a fan base, but we mentioned a great performance, but in a poor way. What if I chose the Atlanta Falcons as a team being up 28-3? And I knew it was going to draw some ire there, but
man,
it was a performance, and in one sense, it was great, just not in their favor.
It was greatly disappointing. How's that?
Well said. When we were kind of racking our brains on these, I was like, well, that was a performance, and it was something, and it was notable.
It was definitely something.
I will take the Atlanta Falcons and just have to deal with any unfortunate resident ATL.
I think at this point, Falcons fans are kind of resigned to the ridicule.
Yeah. It was.
But as I said yesterday, I think Kyle Shanahan kind of jinxed himself with that one. That one kind of is on his shoulders.
No doubt. And some of the similarities from that game, at least to me, started popping up
Sunday
early
night
in the second half when they're kind of abandoning the run. Some things are just feeling a little eerie. And then how about that? You got one of the greatest of all time quarterbacks yet again Brady then, Mahomes now, just waiting in the wings, and we saw what happened.
Shanahan going Shanahan, huh?
Woo! Yeah, that's one that'll sting with you. And the worst part, not only do you lose the game, obviously, since it was the Super Bowl, it's going to just live on highlight tapes forever.
It's not going away. It's that kind of a loss does not go away until you win.
Yep.
For the Falcons, for Shanahan, you got to win to push that one back. It's never going to go away. But to just push it back in people's memories, you got to win something. Otherwise, it's going to be right there.
Yeah, you're going to need to win maybe multiple just to even kind of slightly
to
move it further back.
To get people to stop saying, yeah, but.
Yeah.
My list to this point has kind of reflected my age, I think. I'm going to bring it forward just a little bit. Super Bowl 52. Nick Foles throws for 373 yards and 3 touchdowns and also caught one in Philadelphia's 41-33 win over New England. Catching a touchdown, throwing a touchdown.
Didn't realize he threw for that many yards in that game as well.
He was winging it around.
That's a pretty gaudy stat line.
373.
For Foles, an iconic play to go with it too on the
Philly
reception.
special.
Yeah, that's a great selection there.
Yeah.
And Hurts had a good Super Bowl last year. Just unfortunately, obviously, in a losing effort.
Right.
Otherwise, he might be a strong selection. For my last pick, I'm going back to the Homer well, but I vividly remember this Super Bowl and I vividly remember this performance. I'm going Desmond Howard, who still to this day is the only Super Bowl MVP, predominantly on special teams. We talked on this show last week about Hester and his return ability. Same deal here with Howard being the MVP because of his special teams work. 244 yards, including a 99-yard touchdown that sealed the win for the Packers in 31 versus the Patriots.
That's strong. I probably should go with Tom Brady in Super Bowl 51 and that overtime victory over Atlanta, but I'm not. Marcus Allen had 191 rushing yards and a pair of touchdowns in Super Bowl 18, as the Raiders defeated Washington 38-9, and at the time, obviously one of the greatest individual performances, and still holds up.
Yeah. No,
when you approach 200 rushing yards with a pair of touchdowns on that stage,
stout,
solid to say the least. That is our top 5 Super Bowl individual performances here on Top 5 Tuesday, brought to you by Mid-South 5 Fitness. Whatever shape it is that you're in, Mid-South 5 Fitness will get you better. They've got locations both in Columbia and in Franklin. You can find them on social media channels at Steel Athletes, STEEL Athletes. So look them up. You were getting ready to say something.
What about a honorable mention, if nothing else, for an individual performance? Whitney Houston with the national anthem in the Super Bowl. Iconic Super Bowl performance.
It was a iconic Super Bowl performance, and you can still hear it at high schools across the country.
Fair point. Maybe I'll hear it at Magnet tonight.
You may very well. That's going to do it for today's Main Street Sports Today. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock, join us. We will have Heather Williams talking a little NASCAR. We will have Joe Sullivan talking a little Indiana State and local college basketball as well. So, and I'm not sure what else, but between now and then, we got 22 hours to come up with something to talk about.
We can find something.
I believe we will, and I believe it'll be interesting. Check back and see. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 2 o'clock.